Hey everybody, welcome back to another video from Carl's Cycle Supply. This video is about a 1936 Harley Davidson EL that we just delivered to our friend in Wisconsin. The bike was a bit of a challenge and it was filled with highs and lows. In the end, the work and effort paid off and was totally worth it when I got to follow Paul around on his maiden voyage on his 1936 Knucklehead. Please watch until the end to see Paul and I sit down and talk about old bikes, knuckleheads, and try to pin down what exactly it is that makes 36 ELs so special. Thanks for watching. Hey everybody, this is a 1936 Knucklehead that we just finished restoring. I went through it and sorted it out for my friend Paul in Milwaukee. The bike has 305 miles on it. It's a really nice example of what a 36 Knucklehead looks like and acts like. This serial number is 36EL 1800 and change. It's pretty close to the 850th one made, and that would be considered kind of an early to middle series production. 36 Knuckleheads, like we've talked about in other videos, were prematurely released, and there were a lot of running changes on them throughout the 1780 bikes that they made. This bike was previously restored by another shop, and it sat in Paul's office for 20 years. And the guy that restored it said not to put gas or oil in it because it would start deteriorating right away and it would affect his investment. So there's a lot of ways to value things. There's a monetary wise, there's a beauty wise, there's a rarity wise, and then there's a usability way to enjoy investments. So Paul wanted to put the bike in service, and he had been looking at it for 20 years and saw some irregularities in some of the paint, and he could tell that there was a lot of Bondo in it. He had bought another set of fenders from a friend who has since passed away, and he sent the bike to me and he asked me to fit up the other fenders, strip the sheet metal, and take a look at it. I took it apart. I had the fenders and tanks sandblasted, and there were holes inside the gas tanks on the side from old repairs or rot, or I don't know what it was, but they were not usable. There was also rot in the rear fender, and there was rot in the front fender. Even though he had found another set of fenders, I ended up not using them because I found some new old stock fenders. This front fender, I got new old stock in a batch of parts I bought in New York from a guy named Jim. And then the rear fender was actually a black and white new old stock police fender that I bought on eBay. It was more of a 1945 or 44 fender. It was narrow braces, it was for a beehive tail light, and it never had any trim holes on the side. I got the fender, I got original tail light shroud, and then spot welded it on and filled the other tail light holes. So that turned out really good, and I'm really proud of it. You know, having NOS fenders is really special, and I'm glad that I was able to find them. I found another set of gas tanks. I found another oil tank. The oil tank was rotted out. Since the toolbox that Paul found was original paint and we both agreed that it was too nice to repaint, I found another toolbox and swapped it for that one, and then that one will go on a patina bike or original paint bike someday. Some of the other things I had to do, I had to find a different transmission case because this one was really welded up. I was able to reuse the kicker cover and the top. It has an original brake light switch. We replaced all the gears in the transmission with new Andrews gears, and I replaced the third gear with the Super Glide style one that doesn't have a bushing. When you're in third gear going 45, 50 miles an hour, it isn't whining like you're used to hearing. It had a really nice original brake pedal on it. It had repo footboards. I found some original footboards. It had a repo, ooh, that's still hot. It had a repo 2-rivet cam cover on it, which is pretty cool, and that is a mid-series cam cover. But I think that this cam cover is more correct. This is the late 36, 37 one. This cam cover started showing up in the mid 1600s. So since it's an 1800s bike, I think that's the right one for it. It came with these beautiful original 36, 37 handlebars. These are the correct knee knocker ones. So the wheels were pretty close. They had NOS rims. I'm sure they were military surplus ones. They're really nice, no damage. And then it has new old stock spokes, but the hubs were reproduction. And they were like early European ones. They weren't very nice. And I found some original hubs. I had Lee Armitage and his friend resurface the bearing surfaces. This is the front brake drum that came with it, but I had to find the correct brake backing plate. And then I talked Paul into, for safety measures, running the larger dash 37, 38 style brake, just for safety. You know, an original 36 uses the same brake shoes in the front and the back, but when you're riding all day, you can get the early brake to lock up, but it fades out really quick. So I think this is a lot safer. It's actually a Paco drum. The backing plate and shoes are original, and it's just really nice. The front fork was pretty correct. It had the correct early 36 rear leg. It's kind of light up here. It's swept forward. It has a little dimple right here from when they formed it. The front leg was not the correct one, so I found the right one. The ride control was reproduction. I found an original one for that. This is the same headlight that came on it, and it's really nice. And it has a NOS Westinghouse bulb, and it's actually really bright for being 6 volt. This is the original horn that came with it. I put the right chrome-plated plates on it. And then I also put a fender light on it. I feel like they look so much better with a fender light, and when you don't have them, the fender looks so long. I was happy to do that. I always think that's a good addition. When the bike showed up, it only went into 3 gears. The front brake didn't work. When my dad and I and our guys rebuild bikes, all the customers say they want to ride them, and I hope they all do. But some of them just get pickled and put in their garage or man cave or in a museum. And we know that even if the guys aren't going to ride them right away, maybe the next customer or the next owner of the bike will want to put it into use. Someday somebody's going to use this thing and wear it out. The exhaust is really cool. I've talked about making these mufflers in the past. My friend Delmar and I, Delmar was my friend since I was in diapers. We figured out how to make these reducers and the tooling to crimp them and all that stuff, and it's all cool. Having the right exhaust is really special. So anyways, but this one's a little bit even more special. This started out as an NOS VL muffler. The VL muffler's longer and it has different reducers. I carefully ground and cut apart an NOS muffler for a VL, shortened it to the knucklehead length, put our reducers on it, and then reuse the VL tail fin and sanded and ground the edge on the top down so that it's like super smooth like a 36. I get the Y pipe from Aero Bending. They made the tooling for it. And I get this saddle from Jesse Bassett at Gasbox Engineering. And he sells me the saddle without it being formed right here. So this little dimple to catch the rear header pipe is just put in at an angle. I think it's like 17.5 degrees, and then real sharp right here. And if you look at later ones or other earlier mufflers I've made, there's a little oval that's pressed into it. But that feature didn't necessarily show up until really late in 1940 or 41. If you see NOS mufflers that were made after late 40, they'll have the different dimple right here to catch the header pipe. So all of that's kind of confusing, but all of it's kind of cool. So this frame is fucking awesome. I've only had 2 frames like this. This was an original 36 frame. Back in the old days, if you got in a nasty crash and needed your bike fixed, your dealer would take it apart, send the frame into the factory, and they would do whatever necessary repairs were needed. So they would stamp a little number right here on the crossbar to say that they had gone through the frame. But this one is a 1-inch bar that's wedged down to 7/8 and then put in. So when the factory worked on the frame and redid it, they changed that country bar to be the beefier one. And that's really cool. I had to retube this whole frame. It was very broken and busted up and in terrible shape. I got these top tubes from Jason Sheets, and then we rolled these tubes right here that go from here all the way down back. I reinforced the seat post, and it's just super bulletproof and super nice. So unfortunately, it had been just kind of cobbled together and repaired probably before my dad was born. And then whoever worked on it next kind of did a good job of getting it to a certain point, but it wasn't necessarily safe. There were a lot of cracks in all the tubes. There were a lot of just bad and poor alignment things, and now it tracks perfect and it's so easy to ride. So I'm very happy with how it turned out. Okay, well, here's the left side of the 36. This is such an awesome bike, and it was probably one of the hardest bikes I've ever had to restore. We're used to buying bikes in pieces and knowing exactly what every part needs and what we have to do to fix it, and you go into it with a pretty crystal clear idea of the work that's ahead of you. This was a bike that was all previously restored. This bike is a really cool color combination. It's the second one we've done. It's called Royal Buff and Dust Gray. If you watch our video on the other one, There's a lot of good information on 36s. That one is about 400 numbers earlier. One of the coolest things about a Royal Buff and Dust Gray bike, which would be a Knucklehead VL or RL, is this awesome silver stripe where the colors meet. All the other colors used a gold stripe to the best of my knowledge. This is the only one I've seen, and I've seen it on several pieces of original paint sheet metal and on several bikes. So it's a very cool detail. It's very neat. I feel like it really pops. I had to describe this color to a friend of mine, and I described it as salmon and salamander. It doesn't really matter what you call it. I think a rose by any other name would smell just as sweet, and it's really grown on me. So I love this color combination. I'm slowly piecing together the parts to build a patina bike around the original paint front fender that I put in the other video. So it's a 45-degree V-twin. It has a nickel-plated manifold right here. The gas goes into the bottom of the carburetor, mixes in the carburetor, and it goes through here into little sanded ports, and then it goes into the engine and makes power. This is the clutch pedal. I always say toe to go when I'm teaching people how to ride these old bikes. The way this is right now, the toe is down, which is the same as leaving your clutch handle out. If you want to disengage it, you push this down with your heel, and now it's disengaged. And then you give it a little bit of gas and throttle, and then it takes off. Each tank has its own gas valve. This is an accessory extender that I made up a long time ago. This is a tubular shift arm. This came with the bike. It's very light. I believe it's an original, and the shift gate is also an original. It's very cool, rare stuff. This is the third style of transmission top. It has these little nubs right here on the front of it, and then it has a through shaft. These work pretty good. I put some sealer on them when I put them through, but they eventually start leaking, which is kind of a bummer. Not as flashy as the right side, but you can still see a lot of cool stuff. We're sitting here with Paul in the 36 that we talked about earlier in the video, and this is a first of doing an interview with the customer. And Paul's been my friend for a long time. He's had a 36 for a long time, and he waited a long time to ride one, so it's really awesome. Tell us about the whole process of wanting one, having one, and then finally getting to ride it. Did it measure up to your expectations, or were you...
Oh, it's great. I started collecting vintage bikes about 30 years ago, and the gateway drug was a 48 Indian Chief. And then when I was working on that, a local dealership had a 49 Panhead sitting on the floor. I got a great price on that. Well, if you have two, anything, you have a collection.
Yes.
So a local contemporary Harley shop, I was doing a custom motorcycle, and they had an off-site, so they sent me over there to get some parts, and I went to pick up the contemporary parts. Kind of like the Scarecrow and the Wizard of Oz, with these series of parts laying on the floor, and I didn't really know bikes, but I went, I think that's a Panhead. Yeah. So I asked them, they sold it to me, and it was a low mileage, 10,500 original miles on it. And so a friend of mine here was also a bike collector and more of a mechanic than I am. So he started that, and I learned tank shift on the 49, and we did a couple of projects together. And he said to me about 25 years ago, he said, you know, I'm getting a 36. They're really great, first knucklehead, and I think they're going to be more valuable. You should get one. So he found the first components, the frame, the engine, the fenders, kind of as one pile. And from there, over a period of about a year and a half, 2 years, found parts, some parts for it. He put it together. It was pretty, but I never really trusted it. So I never really rode the bike at all. So I was sort of prepared to think of it as a rolling piece of sculpture, which is the opposite of how I think. And I collect all sorts of vintage mechanical things, and if I have a vintage mechanical thing, I want it perfect, I want it functional, I want to be able to push the button and make it do what I'm supposed to do. So I've known you since you were about 10 or 11 years old, and so we've been friends all these decades. And you mentioned, hey, the paint colors are off, I can get you the right paint for it. So it was going to be a quick turnaround paint job. And the more we got into it, the more we realized there's problems with it. So you did this awesome job and made it into a true authentic 36. That is eminently rideable, not just a pretty piece of sculpture.
Thank you for trusting me to do it. I'm very proud of how it turned out. I like seeing you ride around the lake. I felt like a proud dad, because as long as we've been friends, this bike has been part of your story, and there is nothing wrong with loving it as a piece of rolling sculpture, but to see people grow and their interests change and wanting to use it and enjoy it in another way is something that not a lot of people do. You know what I mean? Like they usually stay in one camp and don't go into the other, or they just change directions completely. So it's been fun, like as I've grown up, to see you mature and change and value things in a different way too. And it's a lot of good synergy and a lot of fun.
I agree. It's great to be able to ride it now, and as you know, my tastes are ecumenical. I like a variety of brands, but I've always considered 36 Harley amongst probably the top 5 most beautiful motorcycles ever built.
Yeah.
The lines, everything sort of flows together. It's just a tight overall, beautiful, well thought out design.
It's amazing how much they got right out of the gate. Like there were a lot of problems with this bike. They had to fix a lot of things, but you know, overwhelmingly it was a home run with a few adjustments. I mean, by 38 they had it perfect. But.
Right. We're in Milwaukee, and so there's people who know quite a bit about Harley riding. Like, if I'm riding a 48 or something, people, is that a Panhead? Is that a 50? What is it? So most people in Milwaukee are no more than 2 or 3 people away from somebody who worked at the plant.
Oh.
So anyhow, in talking about the 36s with a fellow around town here, it was his understanding that actually the guy who designed this was a German submarine designer, that he knew how to really pack a lot of stuff into a tight space efficiently.
That makes sense. I mean, all the problems that you have to solve in building a bike or doing any project, you want to tackle and solve as many problems with 1 or 2 parts as you can. And looking through this whole motorcycle, there are components and pieces that do half a dozen things at once, and it's so well thought out and it's so impressive.
I agree. It's a purpose-built machine. It's kind of common, again, if with the interest that goes to sort of exotic European and English bikes also. Sometimes it's common for those people to sort of dismiss Harley as a very common bike. And the way I explain it is that I think that's just a byproduct of success. They built an extremely well-built bike, beautifully designed. And for example, in 47, they sold something like 12,300 bikes.
Yeah.
When you look at Brussels Superior, and their entire 20-year run was 3,000 bikes.
Yeah.
So
Vincent's, I think, were 10.
Vincent's, there were about 1,200 Black Shadows built.
Yeah.
And I think you're at about 10,000 over there.
Between comments, repeats, and shadows.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the Harley, it's just it's easy to maintain. I jokingly have friends who said, if you had a ball peen hammer, locking pliers, and a screwdriver, you can keep them going. And it's true, they're very easy to service. I'm not a true mechanic, but I have only 1 or 2 times actually had a breakdown that I couldn't MacGyver together enough to get it home myself.
Yeah.
So a very average owner could keep these bikes going.
Well, I think you have awesome taste. I admire you being able to ride and enjoy a huge variety of bikes. I mean, from Indians to Harleys to all the other cool European ones. I struggle sometimes going from a 36 to a 39 to a 47 because they're different shift patterns. So.
Well, friends of mine
You're doing good.
Friends have asked me, gee, don't you have a hard time jumping from one bike to the other? And the only time it ever posed a problem for me was when I'm a Harley lover, and I've rode Harleys for 35 years, and I had an Indian. I had a 52 Indian, and
it's very close to mine.
Very similar. This was set up very, very similar. The only difference is where the Harley is toe to go, the Indian is heel to go. And I got into an emergency situation. My brain went into default mode and went to disengage. And I engaged and hit forward, clipped the right hand, crash bar the guy's car. It was limited damage, but so the point I was going to make about the difference is I had the problem with the Indian because it was so close to the Harley.
Yeah.
It was different, but to jump from like a 1974 Ducati to a 1936 Harley to a Godet or something, it's so different. It's kind of like operating a toaster and operating a television. It's really pretty easy because they're so far apart.
That's a great way to compare it. I agree. I understand what you're saying. So, thank you for the opportunity. Your 38's going to be just as nice, maybe a little more flashy, but it's going to be silver tan, which I've never done before, and I'm so excited. So.
Well, thanks for the awesome bike. I mean, the 5 years of intense labor and parts hunting, make it like perfect. I appreciate it.
It's really hard, but I'm so proud of it. I'm so happy.
You should be.
I know that I don't have a retirement plan, so your job now is to wear it out so you can pay me to rebuild it in
Yeah.
10 years.
Well, now we have the 38 to look forward to.
Okay, good. They're good until about 60,000 miles.
Yeah, well, I have 60,000 miles left in me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks much.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to tune in to the next episode where we'll be going over beautiful restorations and motorcycling adventures here at Carl's Cycle Supply.